Nobody wants to tell you the truth about being a deep sea fishing captain, so I have to. If I can be a deep sea fishing captain, anybody out there right now can be a deep sea fishing captain. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Peterson. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you like fast fishing boats, cool gear, and like to hear crazy, amazing stories from people that live a waterful life, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. We have many more videos to come. You know, everybody thought this kid from Minneapolis had no chance being not only a boat captain, but a deep sea fishing captain and being successful. Well, little did they know, I was going through this entrepreneurs organization program where they help you visualize where you want to go. And all my visualizations and using the US traction process were like all about doing this outdoor adventure stuff with my gym clients. I was like, this is just a different business. There was this town called Carabel, and just off the coast, there was this water and boat access only island. And I'm just thinking like, how did I get this lucky? Like, if I can be a deep sea fishing captain, anybody out there right now can be a deep sea fishing captain. You see, I grew up with a poor black mom and a gay dad in South Minneapolis. And my dad wasn't able to teach me the things I needed to become a fisherman, let alone a deep sea fisherman or a boat captain or tow boats or any of these things. He would often bring me, like when we went on family trips to California and stuff, he'd bring me shark fishing or something. He brought me up to my uncle's house in Ely, Minnesota, up in the Boundary Water Canoe area, my grandfather's house. And they are the ones that taught me how to fish. And not everybody has that opportunity. But, you know, it takes a village to raise children, and I was lucky to have my uncles to teach me the way. One of the first times I ever remember having this itch and this feeling for big water and adventure and all this kind of stuff was another time when my dad, unbeknownst to him, took me to Duluth, Minnesota with my Auntie Lane. And I don't know, I was maybe 10, 8 or something like that. And we drove and we seen Lake Superior. And I was like, Dad, what's that? Is that an ocean? He's like, no, that's a lake. So we went down to the lake and we were throwing stone. We're going to the harbor in Duluth there and going on the pier, going to the lighthouse and just looking out and not being able to see the end of it. And I'm already obsessed with fishing at this point. I'm, you know, mowing lawns, spending all my money on fishing tackle. I think I was 10 years old. I bought a side finder. It was like this like portable one with a big pole and stuff. And, you know, I was obsessed with fishing from a young age. I was 4 years old with my grandpa fishing on Lake Pekegama, about an hour and a half north of Minneapolis. And I remember there's a thunderstorm coming in. We're in a little 14-foot lawn with a 7.5 horse. And he's like, oh, you know, we got to go. And I'm like, no, one more. And we were just catching crappies. And, you know, I just had it in me. I don't know where it came from. But because of all these people, I had, you know, just little experiences, little tastes. And then after doing that first deep sea fishing out to the Catalina Islands in California, I was hooked. I seen sharks eating fish and the pure excitement of being out on the water and getting seasick. My dad actually went, you know, God bless his heart, he went on a deep sea overnight fishing trip with me to the Catalina Islands. And we were in the bunk and we were just puking the whole time. And even then, I wanted to go the next day. And my dad was like, this kid is crazy. So you never know where your inspiration is going to come from. But to bring this all back full circle, you know, I grew up, I don't know, a block and a half on the Mississippi River. And we go down there and we'd catch a carp or something. And there's tons of lakes in Minneapolis. And we'd go and we'd catch bullheads and sometimes a crappie or a northern on Lake Nokomis or something. And then we'd go up to Ely and, you know, I just grew up fishing. And, you know, I remember I was 10 years old and I'd go to my dentist and he'd have all these magazines like dentists have, and I'd pick it up and it'd be like sport fishing magazine, saltwater angler. And I remember telling my dad and everybody, you know, when I grow up, I'm gonna do that someday. And I think they just wrote it off. And, you know, I ended up going and joining the military. I was in the Air Force and the Army. My first duty station was at Tyndall Air Force Base. I just remember seeing all these guys with these big boats and thinking how rich these people are and how they do this and all these different things. And I was on active duty, and I think my first paycheck was $350 for 2 weeks. I mean, I had no money. When I was in Florida, I was there till I was 20. I think my biggest paycheck was $1,200 or something. I mean, of course, I had a brand new truck, and that ate up all my money if I wasn't, you know, going out to the clubs chasing after girls and all that kind of stuff, like a young man does when they're 19, 20, 21 years old. But I remember when I left there, I said, you know what, this place is awesome, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to be one of these guys that goes out on these boats. It's like one of these things, you got to see it to know it's a thing before you can do it. So fast forward a long time, I end up owning a gym and shut that down. And I was going through this entrepreneurs organization program where they help you visualize where you want to go. And all my visualizations and using the US traction process were like all about doing this outdoor adventure stuff with my gym clients. And I was like, after about a year and a half of me going through my accountability group and doing my vision, I was like, this is just a different business, right? So I shut my gym business down. I ended up having some health issues, and I had my niece and nephew needed care, and we ended up adopting them. And that kind of put a wrench in the thing. For about a year and a half, I was just, they got special needs, and it was really difficult. And I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this outdoor fishing company? And I'm living in Apple Valley, Minnesota, which is a suburb of the Twin Cities, and the schools are good there. And, we almost bought a cabin up in northern Minnesota, and I'm glad we pulled out of it kind of towards the end because it just wasn't the right fit. And I started, working on my wife. Hey, we need to move to Florida. We need to move to Florida. She's like, okay, cool. We'll move to Florida. One of my sons was down there during the school year, and it kind of just made sense to be closer to him. Then I did some research, and I found about an hour from where I was stationed at Tyndall Air Force Base, there was this town called Carabel, and just off the coast, there was this water and boat access only island. So I did the research, and there's homes online. I said, I gotta buy one of these houses. It's got a dock. I can do my charter business to and from the thing. And it was like, man. So, we moved everything. We got everything that we owned. We had 5 kids at the time, one of them part-time, but 4 full-time, in a 16-foot U-Haul. We packed everything up because when you move to the island, the only thing that goes from the mainland to the island is a landing craft, and the biggest truck you could fit on there is a 16-foot U-Haul. I had about a 20-foot Lund with like a 150 or a 100 on it, and it was like a Lund Alaskan, so it was a big kind of like freighty kind of boat. It had like big galvanized metal floors, and I was doing stuff back and forth. And I thought I was going to take my kids to school on this thing, which was a ridiculous idea because it wasn't like a bass boat, but it didn't have high sides and a high bow. And I remember one time I tried to do it when there were 6-foot rollers, and we made it about 5 minutes out, and I turned back and I said, I got to go buy a bigger boat. So I started researching, and I bought a catamaran. I'd always been researching catamarans for a long time from my buddy Tommy Merrill, American Offshore Charters out of Carabel, Florida. He taught me largely what I know about deep sea fishing. I'm always going to owe him a lot for that. I went commercial fishing with him many times. He helped me understand the things I needed to do and not do. And my buddy Pren down there from Carabel helped me. He's a retired captain, helped me out a lot when I first got started. And my point is, you can't just do it all at once. You have to chip away. You have to go, look, here's the whale. I'm going to eat a little bit of the tail. And just keep going and going and going and going. And eventually, I got the catamaran. Wasn't the greatest offshore boat, but it did the job. It was just old and had engine issues and this and that and the other thing. And it took on a little bit of water and, like a lot of old boats do. And it got to the point where I was taking my kids back and forth to school on the boat for over a year. And after about 4 months of that, it was about $1,000, $1,200 a month in gas. It's getting expensive. So I bought a little 18-foot Zodiac boat, and I brought the kids back and forth to the island on that boat, and it was only about $5-6 in gas. But, it was a 25-horse and an 18-foot inflatable, and it was not exactly a comfortable ride, but it was fun as heck. And it just, money-wise, we couldn't do it. It was getting so expensive. Our insurance was going up. Everybody knows the insurance costs in Florida are going up. So I was like, I got to get a job. And I went to work for the school. I was going to do that, and I just wasn't feeling it. But then I kind of started talking into some of these captains like Pren, and how does this work money-wise? What do you need both? Permits, licenses, all these things. And, by the time I'd been down there about 6 months, I was like, well, I see these other guys out here. I see how much they're charging. I'm a business guy. I'm good at marketing. I know that I can get people to ring the phone. I just need to catch some fish. So I was like, I've never caught a fish before out here. I caught some squirrel fish or whatever, in that area off Dog Island, St. George Island, people want grouper and red snapper and maybe king mackerel or something like that. So, I talked to Tommy Merrill and Pran, and he gave me a couple of their kind of like public numbers, and I went out and fished them by myself. Didn't catch any grouper or snapper. I think I caught like a lane snapper about this big or this big. And all of a sudden, I was like, that spring break, I was like, I'm just going to sit down and study and get this captain's test. I mean, I've always been pretty good academically, been really good at taking tests in the military. So I was like, I'll just study my butt off and I'll go take this test. So, I'm living on Dog Island. We have not the greatest internet. We had Wi-Fi. We had Verizon hotspot. And when there was a storm between the island and the mainland, it like barely even worked, if it worked at all. And this was back in 2018 before Starlink and all that. If I had Starlink, I might not have moved off the island. I mean, my wife would probably tell you something different, but I studied my butt off. I'd already, water navigation was very similar to land navigation in the Army. I never missed a point of land navigation, so that wasn't really that hard. The signs and symbols, I only studied for like 5 weeks. Studied my butt off, like 5-6 hours a day, just cram. And then I get to the testing place in Panama City, and I'm like, and they ask, how many people are here to retest? And like 70% of the people raise their hand, and I'm like, oh crap, there's no way I'm going to be able to pass this test. What did I get myself into? But unbeknownst to me, I passed with flying colors. I was really lucky. I was very fortunate. And I sent in my paperwork to the Coast Guard. I went and got my license, waiting for my Coast Guard license to come in the mail. I went and got my license to charter out of Florida for the FWC, but I didn't actually I had the paper saying I'd passed and it's in the mail and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't actually have the book yet. But I got a call because my website and everything was up. And I was like, well, okay, I'll take you out. And I actually did my first charter without my captain's license, my merchant mariner passport book, which was risky, but I needed the money. And what I did is, I know these other people were charging $700, $800, $900 a trip, and I just knew that I wasn't going to get business because I didn't have fish pictures or whatever. So what I did is I started taking people out just for gas, pay for the gas, and we'll go out fishing. Because I just desperately needed fish pictures. So I took 5 or 6 people out and went to these numbers, and we caught fish. We caught some king mackerels and some other stuff, but I never had caught a grouper yet. And right before I got this call, the guy was like, I want to catch grouper. It's grouper opener. It's like April 1st or 10th or whatever it was. I can't remember. And I call my buddies. I call Pran. I call Tommy. How do I catch a grouper? Where am I going to catch a grouper? I got this charter. I got to get a grouper, And there was 2 people on the boat and 2 guys and a woman. And we went out there and, these guys chain smoke like crazy. And to each their own. I just didn't necessarily like it all the time coming at me. But, we're out there fishing and we get into some groupers. All of a sudden, we're just catching grouper after grouper. I'm like, man, if I'd have known it was this easy, I'd have been a charter captain when I was like 20 years old. I got out of the military and came down here. But, I didn't have the money and the credit and all these other things to do that earlier in my life. And I didn't have the knowledge, skills, and abilities I had learned from being a record-setting National Guard recruiter to influence people in the community, to send me referral leads, which was it was from one of the people at the dock that knew me. I paid them all. I gave them all a $25 gift card to Amazon. Say, hey, help me out. I'm new. If you get more, I'll send you another $50 gift card. Help you. You help me, I help you, kind of thing. Which is something I use as a recruiter, which was a really good tool to make stuff happen. So, we go out there, we catch fish, we come back, we're cleaning fish in the dock. There's other people at the cleaning station where these captains have been around forever. And they're like, how did you catch all those grouper? Were you using all these crazy electric reels and all this stuff? Like, no, we're just using regular reels. And, everybody thought this kid from Minneapolis had no chance being not only a boat captain, but a deep sea fishing captain and being successful. Well, little did they know, one of the guys on that boat wanted to go out again the next day. But this guy wants to catch amberjack. And I'm like, I've never even seen an amberjack. So sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's book the trip. So as soon as I get back, I call my buddies up. Hey, how do I catch an amberjack? How do I catch an amberjack? Thankfully, just like in the military and martial arts and fishing, your elders, if you help them out, they see the passion you have, they will help you. If you've been a good person, you help them. So these guys gave me some numbers. I think they gave me the Franklin County Reef out there. There's tons of Goliath groupers out there. So it's like, and sharks. It's like street fighting of fishing. It's literally one of the hardest places honestly, it's probably the hardest place I know of to get a fish off the bottom and actually put it in your boat. And I don't know this, of course. They're like, yeah, you're going to lose a lot of tackle. I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, I lost probably $100 in tackle and hooks. I mean, the hooks are a couple bucks and the weights are a couple bucks and leaders and all this other stuff. But guess what? We start chumming. Goliath groupers are coming out after it. But guess what? The amberjack go crazy. All of a sudden, we got an amberjack. One of the bigger amberjacks we caught out there at that reef, probably in the 4 years I was chartering down there, was caught my first trip I ever went amberjack fishing. And I'm just thinking, like, how did I get this lucky? Like, and it's like, I don't know that it's luck. You know, I feel like, honestly, I feel like if you just keep on going and you work hard, you know, things will work out for you. If you have good intentions, you tell the truth, and you do your best. I never promised any of these people we were going to catch fish. You know, I told them I know where we could catch some fish, and, you know, we'd have a good chance. And I've got, you know, spots and people that help me, and, you know, and they knew that. They knew it was my first trip. They knew it was my second trip. But I had a positive attitude. We had fun. And most importantly, that's what you got to understand. If you're going to be a charter captain, people are on vacation, and they want to have fun. Yeah, there's a lot of people that just want to bring meat home, try to offset the cost of their trip and all that stuff. And, you know, unfortunately, we don't have the same regulations we used to have 20, 30 years ago. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that. I mean, sustainably harvesting your fish and all that's great. But it's like, you don't, most people just have never been offshore fishing. You just give these guys a really good experience. Make sure that their drinks are cold, you know, make sure they got music that they like, make sure on time. You do what you say you're going to do. You do it with a smile. And in my whole 4 years of deep sea fishing, I never got skunked. There was one time we had some people who came in, they were throwing up, wanted to come in, and they wanted to just do inshore fishing. Well, I had all this offshore tackle and bait and all this stuff set up and to go out 40 miles, and they wanted to catch stuff on the beach, and because the guy had to throw up and go use the bathroom and all this stuff. And, you know, we ended up catching one shark. That was the worst trip I ever had. And I'm like, you know, as a captain, I take it very seriously as my job to make sure people catch fish. And 95% of the time, we just wrecked them. I mean, and if we didn't, I would just keep driving and we'd find a spot that there would be some fish. And we'd wreck them for at least a third of the time we were out there, you know. But there are some times as a captain, you can work your butt off, your deckhand can work your butt off, you can have all the right baits, everything prepared, and it's just going to be slow. And the only thing you can do is give them a good experience. Give them a good experience. They will not only come back, they'll tell people about you. And, you know, that's what it's really about. Repeat and referral business and build a relationship with folks. I mean, think about, you know, you don't go to your barber necessarily just for the haircut, but there's a relationship you build with that person. And think about, you know, you're trusting them with the haircut. I mean, it's not a huge risk in that. Maybe you look a little funny for a couple weeks, but when you're going out there deep sea fishing, you're risking your life. These people are paying you to make them come back safely. So make sure they're safe. They don't know that when the weight's swinging around and the hook is bad, you know, like you got to teach them how to be safe. Especially they got their wife, their kids. You know, I had 98-year-old folks on my boats. I had people that, you know, sometimes would, you know, have heat strokes out there, other different medical emergencies, you know, and you got to get them back. And that's what they're doing it because they trust you. So when you're on the phone with them, you know, make sure that if they're going to trust you for big things, they need to be able to trust you for the little things. Answer the phone. Get back to them within 10, 15 minutes. You know, make sure that you are doing what you say you do. If you send the contract, have them send it back on time. Just do everything on time. Do it with a smile. And I'm sure you'll be successful in being a deep sea captain. And if you have any questions or comments, or you have anything that you would change about this video, let me know in the comments below. With that said, I'm going to be doing more and more consulting for YouTube. So if people want YouTube to help with their business, I've started another side company called Video Evangelist. Links in the description. Also, if you want help buying a boat or, you know, learning how to drive your boat, let me know. You can send me an email or call me, and I'd be welcome to help you. Or if you want to film an exciting offshore fishing adventure with your friends or something, I'd be more than willing to help you make that content. We could even put it on my channel if you like. If this video is everything you expect it to be, please share it with one of your friends. And I'm sure you will like to check out one of the videos that's on the thumbnail of your screen. Thank you guys also very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.